don't be put off by any perceptions that you have to have been in a kind of role for years. You will have something to offer, and everyone can support each other, and everyone will bring something to the table. So it'd be great just to see a greater representation from our membership. So I became involved just over a year or so ago. It's something that I basically, since I've been living and working in New Zealand, it's always been of interest. Everybody I've met previously on council has been like warm, welcoming, and quite inspiring. I first came to New Zealand in 2011 at a conference at the Bay of Islands, for those that remember. And then the following year I moved out here for work, and being Wellington based and obviously being available to like meet people and attend conferences has been really great, because then it's allowed me to meet people, learn a little bit more about the profession in this country. And so in the last couple of years I've been in jobs that I've been working in an advisory capacity, so I've been less kind of hands-on. So one of the things that really attracted me was the ability to join council and maintain a kind of closer proximity to the profession. So I think for me, I had an idea. Like I've been on organising committees, similar roles but not council specific roles. So I think the bit for me that has probably given me more food for thought, well, two things really. One is about the understanding the processes and the history and how we've come with the rules around the AGM. I think most people can testify that takes a bit to get your head around. So that kind of legislative side and process and protocol side, and then obviously the fact that we have the TRGM model here, and that it's a very different way of working to anything I've done before. So those have been the two biggest, I guess, issues for me. The conversations. Being in a room full of people who have very different experiences, very different backgrounds, and perspectives, and I mean that generically, not just around the two-house model. So we've had some great debate, some really interesting and challenging topics that bring out like a lot of passion and energy. And I have to say, like, for me, everybody who I've come across previously and currently in council are there because they want to take responsibility and have like a passion for the profession and supporting it. So that for me is probably the number one thing. It's great to be in a room full of people who, whilst we may be coming from different perspectives, really we're trying to achieve the same goal. Yeah, patience, I guess. Like, I think for me, the makeup we've had in the time I've been on, it's been full of a lot of very experienced professionals and practitioners and researchers, and so everyone is quite confident, I would say, and experienced in their own construct of what they think is right, wrong, and so when you have a room full of people that have a strong conviction, then one of the great things that comes from that is you then have the ability to explore that. You would hope also that what comes with experience, and I have experienced this so far, is that ability to be challenged and be able to reflect, because especially in the time with COVID and etc., it's a movable feast, and we've got to be a collective voice, but we have to find the right way to go about making sure everyone feels part of that voice. Learning, honestly, it's just been a massive learning. I thought I had an idea, I've been in New Zealand, I've been part of this membership for coming up on 9 years now. I thought, I've been at past AGMs where there's been discussions. I thought I did understand the basic fundamentals of like what it might mean to have this two-house model. But actually, realising that I had to take a step back and really try and understand what this was about. And council members during my time have been very supportive in trying to offer advice and guidance. And actually, members of the association, not just on council, have been fantastic in supporting my learning. And again, coming from a role where I'm in an advisory capacity, so people come to me for some advice and guidance. Having that kind of flip back on me in this role has been really good, because I've had to go, what don't I know? Well, I don't know what I don't know. So where do I source that information from? And I guess it's just an exciting time to be on the council because, yes, it's been in place for 5 years or so now, give or take, but actually there's a lot of kind of active work going on right now. So yeah, it's a good time, which is an answer to another question really about why join council now, because you can be part of something quite special. I think to have protocols and practices and learnings in place to ensure there's space for the voices and to give, and there's a lot of talk about equity versus equality, and when we start talking about the importance of having a voice for Indigenous people, and one of the things for me it's been really interesting is learning when to kind of go, okay, this is not for me to speak about because we have this model, and the model talks about trying to understand, or our learnings are about trying to understand when is a sovereignty issue. So when's it right for Tangata Whenua and to have space to do things, and when's it right for it to be a more collaborative piece and a piece where we negotiate more. Yeah, that's been another steep learning curve. So you're basically a little bit of a conduit between the OT Association of New Zealand and the World Federation. So it's really about sharing information. Yes, we sometimes are asked to vote on particular elections to positions within WFOT or on positions to offer advice around position statements, but that is not for us as individuals to do. It's to facilitate involvement and engagement from our membership. And there's sometimes quite a bit of emailing or late night voting, as happened recently a few months ago. But it gives us an eye into the window of wider issues. Now, there's ways to do that are in addition to the World Federation, but in relation to this particular role, it is about information sharing and gathering. And also it allows us to showcase and highlight things that are happening in New Zealand to the wider global community. There are those abilities and options to share information through the World Federation newsletters and stuff. And actually, that's one of the things I really love, listening to what's going on in New Zealand and allowing people the opportunity to perhaps share that on a more global scale. We should be really proud. We do some awesome things here, but sometimes if you're not aware of what's different within your own country compared to what's going on out there, you wouldn't know that you're doing things as perhaps groundbreaking as we are. Do it. If you want to be involved in something that is going to be exciting, diverse, never dull. When you're working with people, it opens up insights into life because you're getting like this passport into someone else's life, which is something you don't often get in other professions. it's a really powerful kind of experience, and yeah, it'd be great to have just generally more diversity across our profession, because then hopefully we would get different perspectives, and different perspectives offer greater consideration about what we're doing. As we were just talking about it, I would say diversity. I think, and it's my personal opinion, that sometimes there may be a perception, I think I had this perception when I first came here, that you had to be like kind of recognised, experienced in your field to take on this kind of role. And whilst there may be some advantages, I think COVID has certainly taught us that actually a collective perspective of life, not just about the great use of technology or different diverse ways to communicate, but actually having a more representative balance from students, from new grads to experienced professionals to researchers and academics. Greater diversity brings potentially greater outcomes and greater representation, and it would be fantastic to have new grads or people who just bring something different. So that's what I would say. Don't be put off by any perceptions that you have to have been in a kind of role for years. You will have something to offer, and everyone can support each other, and everyone will bring something to the table. So it'd be great just to see greater representation from our membership. Well, this year in the AGM, the council roles will be up for reallocation, and people can make an application. I believe there is a deadline, of which I don't have the date off the top of my head, but people can make an application, and if there is more than one person applying the AGM, there can be a discussion and then a vote. But we would say, even if you don't apply for a full-time position, there's lots of projects, or there's lots of working parties, so you could maybe be involved in something part-time or just that has time specific or time bound limit to it. So if just because you don't apply to be on a full council to be a full council member, it doesn't mean you can't be involved in the association, and perhaps that's one way to entice other people in as well. Short-term commitments. Yeah, I'd say if you're interested, if you're like even a little bit or a lot, just don't be afraid to give us a call, ask for a chat. There's nothing like actually speaking to people who have done the role and recently and they can talk to you a little bit about what it might entail, and if you've got specific questions, well, what's the time commitment? Because that's a biggie, right? I mean, this day and age, people have got busy lives, and it is a time commitment. So maybe you have an idea about how you could share it with somebody. Maybe you want to know some specific details. Well, just don't hesitate to get in touch. I'd say it's great for loads of reasons. One, because you're like the coalface and in the heart of supporting your profession in your country, and I think that's an awesome thing. Then from a learning perspective, not just with the TRGM model that we have and our ways of doing things, but also if you've not had like a council or governance experience, it gives you a foot in the door in a like friendly, relaxed way. So it's great from an individual learning perspective. And probably the thing I would say that I love the most is just hearing about some of the stuff that goes on within our profession through our members, and it's great, and you won't necessarily maybe get access to that as much information if you weren't in that role. So just have a chat, give us a call, and look forward to hopefully seeing some new faces after the AGM.